It started as a typical morning. I was more tired than usual, my head still foggy from last night's sleep. My wife Lisa was humming in the kitchen, the scent of coffee and toast filling the small apartment. I poured a cup, trying to focus on the day ahead. We'd been planning our wedding for months and everything seemed perfect, or so I thought. As I sat down at the table, my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen, a message from my best friend, Mark. No big deal, I thought. We've always texted casually, joking about sports or work. I opened it, expecting some dumb meme or a quick hello, but what I saw made my stomach turn cold. There was a photo, a hotel room. The bed unmade, a bottle of champagne on the nightstand, and a pair of women's shoes in the corner. The caption read, "Last night was unforgettable. Can't wait to tell you all about it." It wasn't a direct message. It was a screenshot Mark had sent to Lisa, and she had replied with a laughing emoji. My mind blanked out, the room spinning. I read and reread the texts. My fingers trembled. As I scrolled through more messages, flirty, intimate, unmistakably about more than just a night of fun, my eyes flashed with anger. My wife and my best friend, how many times had I trusted them? How many nights had I fallen asleep thinking Lisa was planning our future while she was secretly meeting Mark? I wanted to scream, but my throat was dry. Instead, I pushed back from the table slowly, my palms slick with sweat. I felt like my entire world was crashing. I looked at Lisa, still humming, blissfully unaware. My mind clanged with questions I didn't want to ask aloud. Later that day, I grabbed the hidden stash of her texts. I knew Lisa kept secret messages. She was clever about it. I had seen her phone tucked away in her drawer, a little black box I'd dismissed as her personal space. Today, I decided I'd find out everything, no matter what it took. I slipped her phone from the drawer when she wasn't looking. Heart pounding, I turned it on, scanning through her messages. There were dozens of hidden texts, all encrypted with code words and emojis. But one thing stood out, an address. A hotel name I recognized from the photos. I couldn't believe she was this reckless. My stomach clenched. My mind raced as I took everything in. I felt a surge of betrayal so sharp it was almost physical. I knew then I had to confront her, but I also had a plan brewing, something she wouldn't see coming. I couldn't just walk away and pretend this was a one-off mistake. No, this was the end of trust, and I was going to make sure she paid for it. I didn't tell her I knew yet. Instead, I sat in silence, feeling the heat rise behind my eyes. The room suddenly felt too small, too suffocating. I clutched her phone tightly, the screen flickering. My fingers curled into fists. I needed a plan, something that would leave her stunned, something that would teach her a lesson she'd never forget. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I lay awake, pacing in the dark. The more I thought about it, the clearer my plan became. I'd gather enough evidence to make her realize I wasn't a fool. I'd confront her with the truth, and when she thought she could handle my anger, I'd deliver the final blow. The next day, I called Mark. I told him I knew everything. His voice was tense, but he tried to play it cool. "Look, I didn't mean for it to go this far," he said, voice shaky. "It was a mistake, I swear." I told him I didn't want excuses, just that he stay away from my wife. That's when I realized it's not just about revenge anymore. It's about reclaiming what's mine. I scheduled a meeting at her favorite cafe, pretending everything was normal. My chest felt heavy, but I masked it with a forced calm. I was ready to expose her, to hold her accountable for the lies and betrayal. And so I waited. My mind was racing, imagining her reaction, picturing her face when she realized I knew. I could feel the anger brewing beneath my skin, ready to explode. I just had to get her to the table. When she arrived, I looked her straight in the eyes. "We need to talk," I said calmly, but the edge in my voice was unmistakable. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the hotel receipts I'd found hidden in her secret stash of texts. The proof was unmistakable. Her face went pale. She stammered, "It's not what you think," I cut her off. "No, Lisa, it's exactly what I think, and I've had enough of your lies. You cheated on me with my best friend just days before our wedding. How could you? How dare you?" Her eyes welled up with tears, but I felt no pity, only cold resolve. I knew then I'd have to follow through with my plan. No more secrets, no more lies. It was time she understood the consequences of her actions. As I sat there, staring across the table at her trembling face, I felt a strange mix of adrenaline and emptiness. The receipts I shoved toward her like a weapon, a physical manifestation of her betrayal, caught her gaze. Her hands shook and her voice barely rose above a whisper. It was a mistake. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I pressed my fingers against the table, feeling the rough texture of the wood beneath my fingertips. My stomach twisted, part anger, part disbelief. How could she look me in the eye and say it was just a mistake? I'd seen the hotel receipts, the texts, the evidence that proved it was more than just a one-time lapse. This was calculated, reckless, and I had enough. "You expect me to believe that?" I asked, voice tight. "You were planning this, hiding your phone, sneaking around, my best friend of all people, and just days before our wedding. How stupid asterisk do you think I am?" Her eyes filled with tears, but I was beyond caring. I wanted her to feel every ounce of what she'd done. I leaned forward, voice colder now. "You lied to me again and again. All those late nights, the secret texts, you thought I wouldn't find out. Well, I did, and I'm sick of it." She looked down, clutching her purse as if hiding from her own guilt. The cafe was quiet, aside from the faint hum of conversations around us. It felt like the entire world was holding its breath, waiting for what I would do next. I knew I had to be careful. I needed a plan, one that would leave her reeling and make her regret every lie she ever told. "I want you to know," I said, voice steady but furious, "this isn't just about catching you cheating, it's about the fact that you thought you could get away with it. You thought I'd never find out. Well, you were wrong." I paused, letting my words sink in. "You're going to regret this, Lisa. You're going to regret the day you betrayed me like this." Her tears spilled over and she finally looked up, eyes shimmering with guilt. "Please," she whispered, voice trembling. "I didn't mean for everything to fall apart. It was a mistake, I swear. Just one night and I was stupid." That's when my mind snapped into place. I realized I couldn't just confront her and walk away. No, I needed to turn this into something that would hit her hard, something she wouldn't see coming. I needed her to feel the weight of her betrayal, not just in words, but in a way that would stay with her long after the dust settled. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the plan forming. "Lisa, I want you to understand something," I said, voice low but commanding. "This isn't just about the cheating. It's about how much you lied, how much you played with my trust. And I've got a plan, one that will make sure you never forget what you did." Her brow furrowed, confusion flickering across her face. "What are you going to do?" I leaned back slightly, a cold smile creeping onto my face. "You'll see, but I promise it'll be something you'll regret, something that will make you realize what you lost, because I won't be your fool anymore, not after this." She looked away, wiping her tears with trembling hands. I could see the faint red flush on her cheeks, part shame, part fear. I knew I had to act fast if I wanted everything to go according to plan. The evidence was in my hands, but I needed to be strategic about how I revealed it. "You think you can just apologize and everything goes back to normal?" I said, voice rising slightly. "That's not how this works. You think your tears will get you out of this? Sorry, Lisa, that ship has sailed." She looked up at me then, eyes pleading. "Please don't do anything foolish. I love you. I made a mistake, but I want to fix it." I scoffed. "Love, you're kidding, right? You betrayed me with my best friend, then lied to my face." "No, Lisa, this is about teaching you a lesson. You're going to regret what you did, and I promise I'm going to make sure you never forget it." We sat in silence for a moment. Outside, the world kept moving, unaware of the chaos in this little cafe. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, the adrenaline making my hands tremble. I knew this was just the beginning. She thought she was going to get away with it, that her lies could cover everything. But I had something else in mind, the kind of revenge that would leave a lasting scar. As I gathered the courage to tell her my plan, I realized one thing for sure: I was done trusting her. If she wanted to play dirty, I'd play dirty too. And this was just the start. The next few days were a blur. I kept pretending everything was normal, but inside I was meticulously planning my move. I'd gathered enough evidence, those hotel receipts, the encrypted texts, even copies of their secret messages. It was all in a folder on my phone, ready to be unleashed. I wanted her to feel the full weight of her betrayal, and I was determined to make her regret every single lie. I spent nights pacing my apartment, my mind racing. I knew Lisa was trying to act like she was remorseful, but I could see through her tears. They weren't genuine, just a desperate attempt to save face. Every time she looked at me, I felt a surge of anger. I clenched my fists, feeling the knuckles go white. I had to keep my cool, but the urge to explode was almost uncontrollable. I needed her to believe I was giving her a chance, that I was considering forgiving her. That was part of my plan. I'd wait for the right moment, then strike hard, something she wouldn't see coming. I wanted her to believe she still had some control, and that was when I would pull the trigger. One evening, I invited her to sit with me in the living room. The lights were dim, just enough to cast shadows across her face. I poured us each a glass of wine, and I let the silence hang between us. My heart was pounding, my palms sweaty. I took a slow sip then. Looked her directly in the eye. "You know, I've been thinking a lot about what you did," I said, voice calm but with an edge. "And I've decided I can't just let it slide, not this time." Her eyes widened. "Please don't do anything rash," she whispered. "I want to fix this, I swear I do." I shook my head, feeling that familiar coldness settle in. "Fix it? You think a sorry will fix anything? You've lied to me for months. With Mark, with all those secret texts, you thought I wouldn't find out." Paused, watching her carefully. "Well, I did, and I've got the proof, Lisa. Every word, every photo, every lie." Her face drained of color. "You're bluffing, you don't have anything." "Oh, I have more than enough," I said, pulling out my phone. I opened the folder I'd carefully curated. "Look at these. Hotel receipts, timestamps, everything. You thought I'd never discover your little stash of lies, huh?" Her hands clutched her knees, trembling. "I was stupid. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Please give me a chance to explain." I felt a flicker of satisfaction, but I kept my tone even. "No, Lisa, there's nothing to explain. You cheated on me, lied to my face, and tried to hide it all. I'm done trusting you, but I want one last thing from you." She looked up, desperation in her eyes. "What? Anything?" I leaned forward, voice low and deliberate. "I want you to tell Mark it's over right now. I want him to know you're finished with him, and I want you to delete all those secret texts, all those hidden messages. No more lies, Lisa. You're going to cut him out for good." Her lips trembled as she nodded. "Okay, I'll do it, just don't do anything crazy." "Oh, I'm not done yet," I said softly. "That's just the start. When I'm ready, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what you are, what you did, and you'll wish you never crossed me." That night, I watched her as she nervously texted Mark, telling him it was over, that she couldn't see him anymore. The satisfaction of her final act of surrender was almost intoxicating. I knew this was the beginning of my revenge, tailored to make her realize she'd lost more than she ever understood. The next morning, I woke up early. I had everything I needed to execute my plan fully. I wanted her to feel exposed, vulnerable, like she'd been caught in the act. I decided I'd go ahead and send the evidence to a few key people, some mutual friends, her family, even her boss. I'd make sure everyone saw what kind of person she truly was. I sat at my computer, composing a message with the evidence attached. I kept it anonymous, just enough to spark curiosity and shock. Then I hit send. It was done. The floodgates were open. When Lisa saw the messages, her face went pale. She frantically scrolled through, her hands shaking, eyes wide with disbelief. "No," she whispered, voice trembling. "Who could have done this? Who sent it?" I watched her as she slowly realized her secret was no longer hidden. Her face twisted with panic. That was exactly what I wanted. That moment, her world collapsing around her, was my victory. I sat back in my chair, feeling a strange mixture of relief and satisfaction. I had played my hand perfectly. Now, all that was left was to see how she'd react when everything came crashing down. I knew I'd crossed a line, but at that point I didn't care. After everything she put me through, she deserved to feel the fallout, and I was just getting started. The fallout hit harder than I'd imagined. I expected some tears, maybe a few desperate apologies, but what I got was pure chaos. Lisa's phone kept ringing nonstop. The texts, the calls, the frantic messages from friends and family who had seen the evidence. Her face was ghostly pale, her hands trembling as she tried to delete the messages, but it was too late. The damage was done. She cornered me in the kitchen, eyes wild, voice cracking. "You did this. You ruined everything," she yelled, voice shrill. "What the hell is wrong with you?" I looked her straight in the eye. "You should have thought about that before you cheated, before you lied. I'm just making sure everyone else sees the truth." Her fists clenched, nails digging into her palms. "You're crazy." You're just jealous or something. This isn't real. You're overreacting. I shook my head, feeling a cold rage settle in. No, Lisa, I know exactly what you are. You're a liar, a cheat, and now everyone knows it. You tried to hide your lies, but I made sure the truth got out. You're not the person I thought you were. You threw everything away for a quick thrill. She sobbed then, leaning against the counter. Please don't do this. I love you. I swear I'll fix it. Just give me a chance. I stepped closer, my voice low and final. There's no fixing this. You lost me the day you decided to cheat. You played with my trust, and I'm not sure I can ever forgive you. But I do know one thing, I'm done with this mess. Done with the lies, done with pretending you're sorry. Her face twisted with pain, tears streaming down her cheeks. So that's it, you're walking away. Yeah, I said, feeling my jaw tight. That's exactly it. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a set of keys, those of the apartment we shared. I placed them on the counter, watching her stare at them like they were a death sentence. I want you out by tonight, I said. This isn't your home anymore. I don't want to see or hear from you again. Her lips trembled, but she didn't argue. Instead, she just looked defeated, broken. I felt a strange mix of relief and anger. The damage was done. She was exposed, humiliated, and I'd made sure she'd feel the repercussions for a long time. As I turned to leave the apartment, I felt a strange sense of clarity. It was over. The betrayal, the lies, everything that once connected us was shattered. I'd taken control of the situation, and I was going to walk away knowing I'd done everything possible to get my revenge. Later that evening, I went to a friend's house. I needed to get away from the mess and clear my head. I told no one about the full plan. I kept it simple. But inside, I knew I'd made her pay for everything. I'd shown her what happens when you betray someone's trust, and I was ready to move on. That night I packed a bag, took a deep breath, and left her apartment for the last time. I handed her the keys, watching her stare at them like they were a symbol of everything she'd lost. No words were exchanged. I knew she understood this was the end. Standing outside in the cool night air, I felt that strange calm settle over me. I'd done what I needed to do. I'd exposed her, taken back what was mine, and made sure she knew she couldn't lie her way out of this. It was brutal but necessary. I drove away, not knowing what the future held, but confident I'd done the right thing. And as I looked in the rearview mirror, I saw her silhouette through the window, tears streaming down her face. That image stayed with me, a stark reminder. Sometimes you have to fight fire with fire. From that moment on, I knew my life was starting fresh. The betrayal was the catalyst, but it also set me free. The trust was gone, but I was rebuilding, stronger, wiser, and no longer willing to be anyone's fool again. The days that followed were like waking up from a nightmare I hadn't realized I was in. The house was eerily silent, the kind of quiet that makes your skin crawl. Every time I passed by the door, I could feel her eyes staring at me from some dark corner, accusing. Regretful and broken. I didn't want to look back, but I couldn't help it. I needed to see the aftermath of what I'd done, how everything had crumbled. I threw myself into work, trying to drown out the gnawing feeling of guilt that crept in whenever I was alone. The evidence I'd sent out, the keys I'd handed over, these were done. Final. But inside, I questioned whether I'd gone too far. Was I just revenge-driven, or was I protecting myself? Honestly, I didn't know anymore. I just knew that I had to move forward. One afternoon, I finally decided to check my email. It was flooded with responses, some sympathetic, some furious, some downright nasty. I saw a message from her sister, a woman I'd known for years. It was brief but clear. You did what you had to do, but don't let this destroy you. She's going to regret this for the rest of her life. I hesitated. Did I want that to be the villain? I wasn't sure. But I did know that I'd rather be alone than be with someone who betrayed me so deeply. I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd saved myself from a lifetime of lies and heartbreak. That realization made me feel oddly peaceful, like I'd finally taken control of my life again. Weeks went by and I started to feel the weight lift. I hadn't reached out to her or seen her since the day I handed over the keys. I didn't need to. I knew she'd be feeling it, her reputation tarnished, her secrets exposed. I'd given her enough punishment. The rest was up to her, and frankly, I didn't care anymore. One evening, I sat alone on my balcony, watching the city twinkle below. The air was crisp, and I could smell the faint scent of rain coming. I closed my eyes, letting the cool breeze wash over me. I reflected on everything that had happened, the pain, the betrayal, the anger, and ultimately, the relief that I'd finally taken back my life. Suddenly, my phone buzzed, piercing the silence. I glanced at it and saw a message from Lisa. My heart paused for a moment, then I decided whether to ignore it or read it. I hesitated, then unlocked the screen. "Can we talk?" It read, simple and unmissable. I took a deep breath and thought about what I wanted, what I really needed. I typed a quick reply. "No, Lisa, there's nothing left to say." I didn't expect a response, and I didn't need one. I knew that I'd done what was necessary. I'd punished her enough, and now it was time to move on. My life was mine again, free from her lies and her betrayal. That night I finally felt at peace. I had taken control, faced the chaos, and come out stronger. I realized that sometimes revenge isn't about hurting someone just for the sake of it. It's about reclaiming yourself, setting boundaries, and making sure the person who hurt you understands they can't get away with it. And with that thought, I closed my eyes, ready to start the next chapter, wiser, tougher, and more cautious than ever before. The final piece of my story wasn't dramatic in the usual sense. There was no grand confrontation, no last-minute revelations. It was simple, done on my terms, in my way. I stood outside her apartment the morning after I'd told her to leave, key in hand, feeling the weight of everything that had come before. My heart was steady, but inside I knew this was the end. I knocked. Once, no answer. I slipped the keys through the mailbox slot, watching them land with a quiet clink inside. It felt like closing a chapter I'd been dragging behind me for months. As I turned away, I looked back at the apartment building, feeling a strange mixture of relief and finality. That moment was my closure. I'd handed her the keys to her own prison, an emotional one, and walked off into the future I was finally starting to rebuild. I knew she'd be devastated, probably humiliated further, but that was her consequence. She chose to betray me. I chose to walk away with my dignity intact. I got into my car, took a deep breath, and drove away. The city was waking up, the same streets, the same noise, but everything felt different, lighter somehow. I had faced the worst. I'd confronted her, exposed her, and cut her loose. There was nothing left to do but move forward, stronger for having survived the chaos. In the weeks that followed, I focused on myself. I started working out again, reconnecting with friends, and rediscovering what made me happy. I didn't need her or anyone like her to define me. The betrayal had hurt. Yes, but it also freed me. I learned that no matter how deep the wound, life goes on if you let it. Looking back now, I realize I don't regret what I did. Not for a second. Sure, it was harsh, brutal even, but sometimes the only way to reclaim yourself is to wipe the slate clean and start fresh. I had to show her that I was no longer willing to be a victim of her lies and deceit. The biggest lesson I take from all this is simple: trust is fragile. Once broken, it's nearly impossible to repair. But sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away, stand tall, and rebuild your life on your own terms. That's exactly what I did. And I know without a doubt that I'm better off now, free of the chaos, the lies, and the betrayal. The pain was real, but so was my resolve. I took charge, made my choice, and in doing so I found a new sense of peace. The past is behind me. The future is mine to shape. Sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones that teach us how to stand tall again. And I'm finally standing.